There are some pretty famous cases of recasting. Good examples are Don Cheadle scooping War Machine from Terrence Howard.
Damn.
Or the 9 separate people that have played John Connor over the years. No wonder the Terminator had such a hard time finding him. Sometimes recasting is because of behind-the-scenes drama, or because a star is too expensive. Other times, it's a mutual decision. Whatever the reasons, most studios would prefer the change go unnoticed, though sometimes it's a little hard, especially when they point it out themselves.
Honestly, I can say she's a completely different person.
However, there are a few examples of a change done so well that we, the audience, barely catch it. Hi, I'm Chris Goodmakers with ScreenRant, and here are 15 actors replaced without you noticing. Doug Jones is iconic for playing cinematic creatures of all shapes and sizes, though most tend to be wet and gangly. Abe Sapian of the Hellboy films is no exception. However, the Fishman wasn't always fully portrayed by Doug Jones. Yes, I'm being a little pedantic, but while Jones provided the body performance in the 2004 film, Abe was voiced by an uncredited David Hyde Pierce. Yes, Niles from Frasier was the iconic BPRD agent first. However, while he lent his distinctive voice to the production, David Hyde Pierce refused to be credited as Abe Sapian, because he felt that Doug Jones's physical performance was more important to the character. When the sequel, Hellboy 2: The Golden Army, came out, Doug Jones finally got to add his voice to Abe Sapian. Perfectly capturing the bookish intelligence brought to the role by Hyde Pierce, Jones proved he could talk as well as he walked. Now he's proving it again and again as Saru in the new season of Star Trek Discovery. Hey, speaking of Star Trek, which I will find any excuse to do, Star Trek has been boldly going for over 50 years. Being such a long-running franchise, it has seen its share of recasting. While iconic figures such as Kirk or Spock have seen casting changes themselves, it's usually been necessitated by the age of the original actors, or excused as an alternate timeline. Little warning, Captain Kirk. Time travel can't fix hair loss. But while it may be hard to fill the shoes of William Shatner or the late Leonard Nimoy, other roles are a little more obscure. In Star Trek: The Next Generation's second season, the Enterprise's resident android, Lieutenant Data, is forced to defend his right to autonomy. Federation cyberneticist Bruce Maddox, played by actor Brian Brophy, wants to use Data to create a new race of robot maids. When television saw the triumphant return of Patrick Stewart in Star Trek Picard, it also saw the return of the character Bruce Maddox. He was a little more beardy than when we last saw him. That's because this time he's played by character actor John Ailes. Brophy had retired from acting by the time Picard was filming and was a little busy being the director of theater arts at Caltech. I guess original Flavor Maddox is now responsible for the next generation of acting. A much better career choice than trying to disassemble everyone's favorite android.
Why couldn't they leave Data alone? He just wanted to feel.
Hey, do you know who else is a being incapable of feeling? The Night King is the winterberry-flavored Darth Maul, responsible for the oft-threatened long winter in Game of Thrones. The leader of the supposedly unstoppable White Walkers and their undead hordes, the Night King cuts an imposing figure. He first appeared in the 4th season, played by Richard Brake. Brake is notable for playing a variety of on-screen creeps, from the tiger-owning chemist in Mandy to Imperial lunchroom jerk Valen Hess in The Mandalorian. However, when the Night King appeared in Season 6, he seemed a little different. That's because he was played by Vladimir Furtick. Little was reported about why the change was made, but given that Furtick is a longtime stuntman, it may have been for practical reasons. Hey, he's not the only change Game of Thrones made over the years. It also changed from being a good show to a bad one. Game of Thrones has recast a ton of actors without any real backlash, but that's not the case for everyone. Crispin Glover is kind of a weird guy. Most know him from his iconic role in the time travel classic Back to the Future. George Mcfly was an integral part to the story of Marty and Doc's adventures through time.
Give me a milk. Chocolate.
Glover decided he was done with the franchise after the first film, but the franchise wasn't done with him. Jeffrey Weissman was hired to essentially double Crispin Glover's look and performance, while recut footage from the original was used to extend Crispin's role. Someone did notice this recasting: Crispin Glover and his lawyers. The star launched a lawsuit against the studio and was awarded $760,000 in 1990. This also resulted in the Screen Actors Guild making changes that stand to this day. Crispin was justified, as the studio had not asked permission to use his likeness, and he was not initially paid. At least he didn't have to hang upside down for a whole shooting day.
I brought pizza for everyone.
Oh, who's gonna eat all that?
Oh, I will.
The punching bag of the Griffins. Meg has been through a lot over the 20 seasons of Family Guy. One of the earliest bad signs for Meg was when her voice changed and no one noticed. Meg was portrayed in the first season by Lacey Chabert. Chabert is best known as Gretchen Wieners by all the diehard Mean Girls fans out there, by which I mean me. She voiced Meg for the show's inaugural run. However, when it was renewed for a second season, Chabert decided to step down. She was splitting her attention between Family Guy, the hit show Party of Five, and going to school full-time. Actress Mila Kunis stepped in to take on the role of the ostracized teenager and has continued to voice her for 19 seasons and counting. Talk about job security.
You remember that pony you wanted when you were 6? Well, I bought him, and I've been saving him for a time like this. Surprise!
Just when you thought I was over Game of Thrones, I will never be over Game of Thrones. Say what you will about Cersei Lannister, but she's fiercely protective and loyal to her children. So you think she would notice that they changed their faces between seasons. Myrcella and Tommen were mostly background characters for the first few seasons, required to stand around and look like a couple of Lannisters. It wasn't a huge task for Amy Richardson and Callum Wary respectively. However, when the roles required more focus in the plot, the young pair was replaced. First, Dean Charles Chapman took over the role of Tommen in Season 4, after having already played the ill-fated Martin Lannister in Season 3. Tommen's ascension to the throne in Season 4 necessitated an older actor with more experience. The same was true when Myrcella was whisked away to the far lands of Dorne and reappeared in Season 5 with actress Nell Tiger now in the role. I guess when you need a blonde character to do more, you find a new actor. Thor has the biggest group of personal friends in the Avengers lineup. Well, he had the biggest group of friends. Sorry, Thor. But before Hela put an end to the Warriors 3, the brave Asgardians were known throughout the Nine Realms. There was the deadly Hogun, the insatiable Volstagg, the swashbuckling Fandral. Wait, no, that's not Fandral. Yeah, that's Fandral. Before he was recast with Flynn Rider, Fandral was played by another Disney heartthrob, Josh Dallas. The star of Once Upon a Time and Manifest portrayed the dashing Asgardian in 2011's Thor. In fact, it was the role of Prince Charming on Once Upon a Time that prevented him from returning for the Marvel sequel. While Josh Dallas was busy vexing a sparkly-skinned Rumpelstiltskin, Zachary Levi was recast in the 2013 sequel, Thor: The Dark World. This time around, the swashbuckler got more chances to... swashbuckle? Swashes buckles? You know, do Robin Hood stuff. Levi was much more of a standout for the character than Dallas, bringing real charm and humor to his rope-swinging and butt-kicking. Levi returned to the role, although very briefly, for the 2017 threequel, Thor Ragnarok. Don't worry about Josh Dallas, though. He's the one who got to marry Judy Hopps. I wish I got to marry Judy Hopps. The dashing Prince of Thieves has been a staple of film and television for the last 100 years. Disney's hit reimagining of classic fairy tales was no exception. Robin Hood plays a big part in the redemption arc of villain-turned-hero Regina Mills. Evil Queen for life. Played by Sean Maguire, Robin Hood has romanced the evil queen since the show's 3rd season. However, when we first saw the heir of Locksley in the Season 2 episode, Lacey, he was a bit more devilish looking. Yes, Lucifer himself. Tom Ellis didn't stick around in the role long, appearing for only 1 episode. The casting change is explained as a magic spell later in the show, just like most things in Once Upon a Time that don't make any sense.
Whenever you notice something like that, a wizard did it.
I see, all right, yes.
Red Skull, the Hydra leader, was seemingly gone forever at the end of Captain America: The First Avenger. Hugo Weaving, who portrayed the Red Skull, explained that he had signed a 3-picture deal, but the change in pay structure meant he would end up making less each film. He stopped negotiations with Marvel, and it seemed like Red Skull was doomed to be lost in space forever. Avengers: Infinity War released in 2018, and viewers were shocked to see Red Skull keeping watch over the Soul Stone on Vormir. Eagle-eyed fans may notice he seemed a little different, and it wasn't just the new Palpatine cloak. Solid look, though. Ross Marquand now played Red Skull, but it was pretty hard to notice. A talented but lesser-known actor, Marquand has since continued working with Marvel, voicing Ultron in the What If Disney Plus series. Before she returned to The Matrix with the upcoming Matrix Resurrections, director Lana Wachowski and her sister brought us the Netflix original Sense8, the story of 8 people across the globe bonded by a shared psychic connection. One of the titular Sense8 was Kenyan native Capheus Onyango, owner of a service bus affectionately nicknamed Van Damme. Onyango goes through a lot over the course of Sense8's 2 seasons. His eternal optimism helps him rise from a poor bus driver to political leader. But that's not the only change he has along the way. Amel Amin originally portrayed Onyango in the show's first season. However, clashes with the Wachowski sisters and co-star Jamie Clayton caused Amin to depart the series early in season 2. Actor Toby Onwumere continued the role till the series ended. There's talk of the show and Onwumere returning in some way, but we'll have to wait till Lana is finished resurrecting the Matrix.
I still know Kung Fu.
When I was a young boy, Independence Day was the biggest film of my tiny life. I was obsessed and would endlessly run around the house pretending to be Will Smith, punching aliens and jokingly smoking a cigar while I commit to giving my life for the future of humanity. My parents let me do some weird stuff. When I saw 2016's belated sequel, Independence Day Resurgence, I was saddened to see that Will Smith was noticeably absent. It was so distracting, I didn't even notice that he wasn't the only actor not returning. Patrica Whitmore, the daughter of jet-flying President Whitmore, was no longer Katara voice actress Mae Whitman. The sequel sees Whitmore portrayed by Micah Monroe, the much blonder actress known for roles in It Follows and The Guest. There's no official reason why Mae Whitman was passed over for the role, but many have speculated. Let's go from a role Mae Whitman lost to one she took over. The cult hit comedy Arrested Development followed the dysfunctional and wealthy Bluth family as they struggled to maintain their relationships and power. So it's like Succession, but with more magic tricks.
Illusion, Michael.
Trick is something a does for money.
Originally played by Alessandra Torresani, Anne Veal was the on-again, off-again girlfriend to Michael Cera's character, George Michael Bluth. Her most notable trait was how unnoticeable she was. An abandoned running joke would have seen her recast for every single appearance. But after Mae Whitman took over the role in the second season, she was so good at being unmemorable that the showrunners kept her around. Probably because they forgot she was there. Hannibal is the now cult classic television adaptation of the Thomas Harris book series. It was cut short in its final 3rd season, but ask a Hannibal fan and they'll tell you it's coming back any day now. Because it is. It is. During the show's 2nd season, Michael Pitt joined the cast as the psychotic and vastly wealthy Mason Verger. Pitt's villain hounded both Will and Hannibal for the back half of the season until a brutal comeuppance left his character with an extreme makeover. When Verger returned for the 3rd and final season, he looked closer to his appearance in both the book and the 2001 film. This wasn't the only difference in Verger's appearance, because Michael Pitt was out and Joe Anderson was in. Anderson took over the role because Pitt quit the show between seasons. Anderson proved he was up to the role with his chilling and memorable performance.
How do you taste, Dr. Bloom? Sweet, I bet.
Still gives me the creeps. Hey, does anyone else remember that time James Bond had a horse butt? Just me, I guess. In 2010, filmgoers finally got a big screen adaptation of the book Percy Jackson and the Olympians: the Lightning Thief. Despite the long title, fans were excited to see the big screen versions of the Greek gods and legends from the book series. One of those was the title character's secret centaur teacher, Chiron. Pierce Brosnan was a natural fit for the authoritative but likable British instructor. Percy Jackson was greenlit for a sequel in 2013 with Percy Jackson and the Olympians: the Sea of Monsters.
You're really testing me with these titles, guys.
However, Brosnan declined to return to the role. Maybe he wasn't fond of how he looked in hooves? Who would be best to replace Bond as the centaur instructor? How about an equally amiable British thespian? Anthony Head, best known as Buffy the Vampire Slayer's caring mentor, was now the trotting teacher. I guess King Arthur's dad doesn't mind having a horse's butt. Okay, this one might be cheating a little, but I'm sure you didn't notice. Family man Don Draper mesmerized audiences each week on AMC's hit show, Mad Men. The advertising guru had a seemingly loving family that included young son Bobby Draper. Bobby was a growing boy, mostly because over the show's 7 seasons he was recast a whopping 3 times. The reasons vary, but Bobby Draper has been portrayed by Maxwell Huckabee, Aaron Hart, Jared Gilmore, and Mason Vale Cotton in that order. Kids, they change so fast into other people. Because of child acting laws, up to 8 different stand-ins were also used for the infant Bobby in the show's first seasons. Actress Kiernan Shipka, who played Sally Draper, even had nicknames for the various Bobbies, such as Buckethead Bobby or Pillowface Bobby. I wonder what she nicknames the cast of Riverdale. I bet she calls KJ Apa Orange Bobby. That's 15 actors replaced without you noticing. Some were less notable than others, but I guess casting changes can happen at any time for any reason. And sometimes it is kind of hard to tell.
Wait, have I been recast? Nah, someone would have told me.